Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and we're back at this commercial property I've owned for a while now and had lots and lots of issues with the county and tenants and different things going on. So we're going to give an update on the county, some of the tenants, and tell you what's happening now at this crazy property. So this is what the property looked like after we cleaned it up some. We're starting to rent it. I bought it for $865,000. It's got like 18,000 square feet of buildings, of 3 or 4 acres, 3 water taps. It was a great deal, but it was all vacant, and it had so much stuff everywhere. So we got it cleaned up, rented this space to a diesel mechanic, ended up renting that space over there to a church eventually, rented another space to a auto detailer, and thought things were going pretty well. Well, then the county comes along and says that we're renting it to the church illegally and we're violating a site plan, and the site plan wasn't completed. That was from 2014, and they're going to shut the whole place down, and we've been dealing with that for a while. So I don't know exactly why the county got so upset over this property, but it was literally operated as an event center, an illegal use for years and years before I bought it. They never did anything, at least that I know of. And the site plan was never completed for 7-8 years before I bought it. But then when I bought it, they got a big huff about us operating this property and how it all had to be fixed. Maybe it's because I'm a new owner and they thought we could get it done. But it was pretty ridiculous in the very beginning. They were threatening to shut us down in 30 days and getting very upset, accusing me of not communicating with them, even though I was and had email proof of us communicating with them, had multiple meetings with them. But then I kind of had to pull a few cards out of my pocket that I had, and things calmed down. They got less mad at me, but they still weren't super happy with the whole situation. So now I think we're in a better place. We'll see. We're still working on the site plan, and some new data came to life in that's kind of weird and frustrating at the same point. But the church is still renting their space, but their lease is up. They're looking for a new space, and they will be moving out. So I think that made the county really happy. And the reason the church couldn't be there is because even though this property is zoned for a church, like the zoning says you can have a church, there's no problem there. The site plan that was done in 2014 said that building could only be a grocery store or retail building similar to a grocery store. So the site plan did not call out a grocery store, which just seems silly to me that that has to be done. But the county said, well, for safety and fire code and building stuff, we have to have the exact use listed on the site plan. I'm like, well, can't just the building code and building permit people go out there when you switch businesses? Can't the fire department just go out there to make sure it's safe and done right? But they want it called out specifically on their site plan. Now, this building was called out specifically for a truck repair shop, possibly storage. And so when we ran it to a diesel mechanic, that was fine. It met the requirements. There was no issues. We didn't have to change that. The front building was specifically called out for a car mechanic or detailer. We rented it to a detailer. That was fine. No problems there. But if we had rented it to, say, a car salesman, which we'll talk about here later, that would not have been okay because it wasn't called out specifically in that site plan. We have to redo the site plan, amend it, whatever. And that is not a simple, easy process you just do, overnight. You've got to submit it, wait, month or two for review, pay a bunch of fees, wait for any inspections, counter arguments they have. It's pretty crazy that every time you get a new tenant, you need to do a new site plan. It makes you realize why real estate is so expensive, why rent is so expensive. All the hoops you have to jump through make things more and more expensive. So through this whole process, like I said, I've been talking to them. I talked to an engineer about creating a new site plan because some of the things that weren't completed before was grading. The county told me a French drain was never done, which was required, but it was actually done. There's some minor concrete work that needs to be done, some parking issues that need to be done. And we did do some of that, cleared out the French drain, cleared out some of the property, and did some of that. But we haven't done the grading yet and some of the other issues just because it takes so long to get any of that done. And this property is full of trucks and semis now, which makes it tough as well. And we wanted to make sure our site plan, all that stuff was completed too. So in the meantime, while all this was happening, the car detailer moved out, stopped paying rent. And so that was vacant for a while. And the diesel mechanic had used that building as a bathroom for a little bit. When his bathroom broke, then he moved some cars in there without telling us, and those were some issues. We'll have previous videos of that. And then the diesel mechanic's wife wanted to start a car dealership here in the small building. We told her, you can't do that. It's not zoned for it. You can't do it. And they just been pushing. And finally, like, okay, well, can we do a car mechanic detailer shop? I'm like, yes. So we ended up renting it to them as a mechanic detailer shop, this front building. We'll show you here in a second. And they've been there for a few months paying rent. And whether or not it's a car dealership, I'm not sure. They say it's not. They have cars out front that don't have for sale signs on them, but they don't have plates. But they've been the same cars for like 3 months. So it's not like they're selling a lot of them or doing a lot of, switching out of inventory. So if it is a car dealership, it's not a very good car dealership. And we do see cars being detailed, washed, worked on a little bit there too. So for the most part, it's a car repair shop detailer right now. So that's been an issue, but they are paying rent. Total rent on this property we're bringing in is close to 10 or 11,000 right now. That will decrease with the church. So the issue now we're dealing with is, we're working on the site plan, getting that amended. I've talked to my engineer. I'm like, hey, can we just say that all uses in the current zoning, designation are allowed? And he's like, nope, they won't let you do that. It's too broad. You have to be specific. I'm like, okay. And so then I talked to the county, and just to double check, I'm like, hey, when we're doing the site plan amendment, can we just say all current zoning uses are allowed? And like, nope, you can't do that. It's got to be more specific. I'm like, oh, like, why do you have a zoning guidance if you also have to have a site plan guidance? It's just crazy how much stuff they make you do. And so I'm like, okay, well, if the church moves out, how are we going to know what tenant's going to move in? Like, do we have to guess what the tenant is, or what do we do? And they're like, well, you can list a few uses if you think you know what they are. I'm like, well, I don't know what those uses are going to be. The property's going to be vacant. We've got to market it. We don't know who wants to move into there. And so they said, well, we guess you can wait till the church moves out and wait till you find a new tenant, and then you can amend the site plan for that. So even though they were pressuring us to get this all done in 30 days and, threatening to red tag the place and make everybody move out, now it turns out we can have all this time to wait for a new tenant, get them in there before we decide on what the site plan should actually be and say and include. So it's been a crazy property, a crazy story. The diesel mechanic has always paid rent, had no problems there. The other tenants have paid rent, had no problems there. But obviously we've had some problems with the county and different stuff. And I'm not really sure what kind of use we're going to have over there once the church moves out. I don't think a grocery store is going to move in there. It could be some kind of sales office or some kind of retail, but I don't know what kind of retail would be there. So it'll just be interesting to see. That's the spot where the church is now. What we are able to do. And then if we do a site plan amendment, change things, add a new tenant, we still have to have the building department go through it, building permits go through it, make sure they approve of the use, the fire department, make sure the bathrooms and codes and all those are up to date. So you still have to do that anyway. So it's just it's strange to me that we have to call out such a specific use in the site plan, and we can't just make it broad and then let the building department, and them determine, hey, this works, this doesn't work from that side of it. So we'll see. We have gotten some bids for the parking lot regrading. Those took a while to get. Around $30,000 was our cheapest one. So I really thought it might be more than that. So we'll see what kind of schedule that happens. It might be tough to do that in the winter too. We've got the other site plan thing moving forward, but we're kind of a standstill until the church moves out and we find a new tenant, which who knows how long that could take. That could take a while. And that's where we sit right now. You may have also remembered Billy was the neighbor who broke into this place. Actually was a super nice guy, had a lot of bad luck, but he passed away. I showed his place a couple weeks ago. Very interesting property. That's still for sale. They wanted $340,000 for it, which is crazy because it's tiny and destroyed. But the county had said that was an illegal use too. He can't live there. He had too much stuff and junk. But they couldn't do anything about that because no one had complained about it. And so that was interesting too, that even though his was illegal and they knew it shouldn't be there, they couldn't do anything because they needed a complaint. And I guess on my property, the complaint was my YouTube videos I make. I self-complained about myself or something like that. I don't know. But I wasn't going to rat out Billy. I wasn't going to tell them anything about that because I think they're kind of hinting at me in one of my meetings that, hey, if you want to complain about Billy and your neighbor, we can go over there and do something. And I just kept my mouth shut. So anyway, there we are. There we have it. And then, here is what the property looks like right now with possibly the pseudo car dealership that doesn't sell cars. And then I did email the county and said, hey, can we have a car dealership here? Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, it's per the zoning. That's okay as long as it's in the site plan. It has to be called out. You can't just have one. And you talk about, the hours and how many people will be working there. Then that will be allowed. So we could, when we get the site plan amended at some point, allow that car dealership to be there. Now you might ask why I'm dealing with all this drama and buy properties like this. Well, if we get all this sorted out and figured out, it's probably worth $1.5 million to $2 million. And honestly, if it was vacant right now, I could probably sell it for that much right now because there's companies looking for properties like this all over. But the diesel mechanic does have a longer lease, so can't do that right now. But we'll see what happens with this property. So thanks for watching. We'll have more updates in the future and more information on other flips, rentals, businesses, all that stuff going on too. Love to hear what you think on this one.